Welcome to the latest episode of Budget Builder on Sorare TV, and I must admit guys, it's a wee bit belated, it's a little bit overdue, but with these Budget Builder series, I like to, we've done lots of different budgets and different scarcities with some different angles of approach on different strategies for competitions and divisions and whatever, but the last couple, when I was drafting them up and writing them out, I'm thinking, I'm just doing the same thing again, just putting different names on it. It wasn't that exciting for me, but today we're talking about what will become the new meta on Sorare once we get the matrix changed. So I've built a nice little watch list and I've went through the main profiles that I see dominate in SO5 throughout the 22-23 season, and for each position I've got 4 kind of candidates in there that gives you some food for thought. Maybe they're guys you've heard of, probably are, and if not, it just helps illustrate the kind of profile of the guys that we should be looking for with the anticipated changes to the matrix and the ripple effect that that's going to cause throughout the leaderboards. At any point today, if you laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe, share, retweet, all that good stuff, guys. Stay out of trouble, and let's get stuck into it. Now, just for clarity, this is the definition of an in-game meta. Now, it's important you understand that because we've had a lot of different metas come into the SO5 arena over the last 2 years when I've been playing, whether it be, fullbacks that are OP, or out of position midfielders and forwards, super rare goalkeepers in Division 3, all sorts of different metas have came and gone alongside different form and different players, as well as different changes to rules and scoring matrices and divisions where players become applicable. And once the new scoring matrix gets implemented, we can model out and think about whose scores would have been what, and flip the little toggle on Sorare data for new matrix and old matrix and all the rest of it. But the actual effects of all of this won't really be truly discovered until we start getting leaderboards out for a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of months, until you actually see. Because as much as we can look at the new matrix and say that like Trent's now super OP and this guy's benefited and that guy's lost out and whatever, because it affects every player in the game, it is almost impossible to really re-extrapolate everything and see how effective. Like a guy, for example, who's maybe a top 50 player now might become a top 30 player now, if that makes sense. Or somebody who was in the top 200 might be in the top 80. That kind of idea. Equally, somebody who was top 5 might now be top 25. So when all those pieces are moving and interchanging and getting into their new order of importance in our life, new metas will be discovered and tapped into. And for me, I see a couple of clear positions that stand to benefit quite securely. And I think that's the main thing for me, is the first meta I'm going to try and look to unearth with you guys today is the secure one. The one where there's actually the least turbulence from the change from new to old. Because trying to get the new thing that'll happen, let's see what happens as it goes on. But I think for us, we can definitely try and find guys that will have minimal negative disruption with mostly positive upside potential. And we'll start with the goalkeepers. Now, this handsome fella is Jean Boutez, and for me, he is maybe the challenger Oblak now, if you like, one of the most solid and consistent. The reason Jean Boutez is probably the poster child for this new metric for me is Antwerp, for the whole time I've been following Sorare and playing this game, Antwerp have been resolute defensively. They've been a very strong, really combative and quite resilient defensive outfit, and it's these teams that the goalkeepers are going to benefit for the most. You've probably, I don't think I'm going out in any kind of real stretch in saying that. As we can see on the new matrix, the scores are really good, and on the last matrix they're okay as well, but he's a big beneficiary because Antwerp don't tend to concede too often, and when they do, they don't tend to concede that many. There is always the outlier, of course, a 4-0 loss there to Anderlecht, but typically speaking, they're one of the best defences in the Belgian Jupiler League. This guy plays all the time. They've got European football as well, if I'm not mistaken, and what we're looking for is guys that everyone's looking for clean sheets, right? Clean sheets are cool. But what is also fine as well is just guys that are in really strong defensive teams that might only concede 1 or 2. They're not going to get absolutely pumped and railroaded. Like, look at this guy here. A bunch of the last scores there. Is there any goals over 3? He's not conceded 3 in forever. And that's a metric that I don't want to get too married to. I'm more looking at guys that don't concede. I'm looking for 1s and 0s a lot, and this guy has that. Reed or whatever they're called are not a great team, but when you look at the defensive record they've had so far this season, and even last season, they've conceded 41 here, but they conceded like 14 of them in 3 games against Salzburg and 2 games against Salzburg. 2 games against Salzburg, they conceded 10 in 1 game against Vienna. Maybe even 2 games against Vienna, they conceded maybe 7 as well, but definitely a 4 on one of the occasions. So outside of those power players where they will get absolutely ran over, They're very resolute defensively against a lot of other teams in the league. And like I said, especially in Austria and Belgium, there's always outlier scores that will ruin that. But this guy, like, he benefits from the new matrix, as you can see quite plainly in Sorare data. And as we've seen with the evidence of the scores here, you know, they don't tend to concede too many. The Austrian league doesn't have that many fixtures either, but again, we're looking for guys that just don't concede that often. Clean sheets should be an absolute bonus. In MLS, I think Kalina is a very underrated, underappreciated guy. His scores are not great at the moment. His pricing's quite exciting, but to be honest with you, and the thing I like about this Kalina guy is he's not going to really be leaving Charlotte anytime soon. As you can see, his scores are really dragged down here from, 1, 2, 3 away games where they conceded like 12 goals. 2 home games, 1 clean sheet in that, and then a really outlier performance to Charlotte. But typically speaking, Charlotte at home are very resolute, very strong. They've got one of the best home supports in the division. So this guy is quite predictable to have a good home game. He might not always get a clean sheet, but he can definitely, as you can see on the new matrix, score into 45s, score into the 48s, score into the 56s without a clean sheet when he is at home. And he's not going to be moving anytime soon. Charlotte are not going to be looking to replace him anytime soon, and for the sort of price that he's at, he's a kind of MLS goalkeeper for the rest of this season and into next, in my opinion. And then the last guy for this kind of example, now I don't really know as much about this guy, to be honest with you, but he's super cheap. Sivasspor still have qualification cycle going on, so they might make the group stages of a European competition. He didn't play much last year. He's played the first 2 games of this year and looked okay without a clean sheet, even getting hammered 3-0. Was this on New Matrix? Even getting hammered 3-0 on New Matrix, he would still come out with a pretty decent score, you know, so not a bad guy for the price he's at as well, you know. So these are the type of profiles we're after, guys that will not concede that many. I don't want to focus on clean sheets, I want to focus on low conceding teams. And then I found 4 defenders. 2 of them are to pair with the goalkeepers, because that's kind of what we do on Budget Builder, you know, but Sam Vines benefits hugely from the new scoring matrix, and playing next to Richie Delat and Toby Alderweireld seems to be agreeing with this guy. I held on to this guy's super rare for eternity, and it finally looks like Sam Vines might become a bit of a player. Started the season off well, you know, when he gets an assist, his AA can carry him to Greg Taylor levels basically. Really solid, and as I say, Antwerp, you know, this guy with Butez is a solid pair, no two ways about it for me. The other one would be Plavotic. Don't know much about this guy again, but he is mega cheap, 9 quid, pairs with the goalkeeper. His scores are pretty decent, and again, we've kind of explained the Reed situation and what can be had there, but what's this, what's that decisive? Sorry, a penalty one, nice, interesting, and an assist. So a centre-back that definitely gets involved at the top end of the park, it would seem. It seems to be like a 3 at the back, so he might be the guy that pulls the ball forward from defensive possession. In America, I think somebody like Crescito, again, he's not going to concede that much, but with some of these guys, like Vines, Plavotic, and Crescito, these guys are decisive capable also, so we definitely want, I'm not necessarily saying they have to be full backs, right, but see, even centre backs that go up for corners, or centre backs that will carry possession into the middle third and then maybe try and play a pass to a winger, guys that can get those types of actions are going to be even more prevalent. The thing with defenders that I'm really worried about for the new matrix is that some of them become liabilities. If you look at every negative decisive action that can move you down, defenders and defensive midfielders are clearly the most exposed to that. Now, negative decisive actions happen very few and far between, okay, but with defenders, upside potential has never been more important. A lot of the time, defenders have been very useful on the platform for like ETH grinding and all that kind of stuff, because they can get 42 every week, they can get 46 most weeks, whatever it might be. That's going to go out the window. In those positions, in terms of like the ETH bashing or the underdog filler or whatever, in my opinion, is going to be mainly dominated by midfielders. So we want defenders that, in terms of the SO5 scores, can score points. And what I mean, I don't mean the number of points, but I mean the category of points that a midfielder could do. They get into that territory of the pitch, whether it be from a wing position or a centre-back position. And Crescito might actually be on like some penalties and stuff like that every once in a while. You never know. He's a bit of a maverick. I kind of like the guy. As you know, he's super old. He's probably only got next season to go, and then that'll be him retired. But he's really cheap, and next season especially, Toronto should be a mega dominant team, and he could, you know, his scores are already good, but they could get even better if Toronto really get their act together over the off season and towards the back end. Look at that, you know. And then the final guy I would have down is Walker Zimmerman. Nashville, again, since inception, have been one of the strongest defensive outfits in MLS. Have not had their best season this year, but this guy at 29, he's not leaving MLS anytime soon. He seems relatively settled at Nashville. He does score goals from corners. He's a real leader, a real talisman of the team. He's trading for next to bugger all at the moment, and his SO5 scores on the new matrix are considerable. Walker Zimmerman, I give you, ladies and gentlemen. You know, on the new matrix especially, guys like this who are in low conceding teams, I say having that captain kind of maverick angle on him, it just makes him so more appealing. Now, when it comes to midfielders, I've said this on my own content often enough, okay, but I think Marcos Llorente is the poster child of the new meta. A guy that does all the dirty work defensively and is very attack orientated, gets involved in the final third with assists, with goals, with making runs, getting into the box, playing crosses, all that good stuff. So I think and again, not just him, right? There'll be better players than him, but it's this mould of midfielder that's what's really going to break out this season for me. His limited's still really cheap. His rare isn't too bad either. I do own 2 of his cards, so I am biased, of course, you know. But I think this is the type of guy that I've always been attracted to for a midfielder in my team. And I think that the new Matrix really benefits greatly these all-action midfielders. I'll put Sebastian Lletget in this as well, very briefly, just because of how ridiculously priced he still is. He's super cheap. He's only just showed up in Dallas for 2 minutes, and he's already getting decisives out the hoo-ha. And I think Dallas are being well built as a team. And, you know, look at that, man. 2 games and he's getting in amongst it already. So I think his kind of price is really decent. He's a bit older, he's not that athletic, and even though I'm saying all action, I've seen this guy pick up doubles. He gets tackles, he gets interceptions, he goes into the final third, gets assists, gets goals, all that good stuff. That's what we're after. And some of you guys might not like Lletget. Obviously I'm fanboying over him a bit. I love the guy, but it's this model, this mould. Now when we move into Champion Euro, I try and put a wee bit more emphasis on the attacking output, because guys that can be in a good Champ Euro team that can potentially dominate many more fixtures, their price won't be accurately reflected in the All-Star or the Under-23 competition, in my opinion, because people assume they're useless because they're champion cards and they don't play for Bayern or whoever it might be. But at the moment, this guy's limited is under 0.1, and Pellegrini has been a wildly effective player for Jose and pre-Jose, and I think Roma are on for a fantastic year. I think he'll be one of the main men. His injury record is definitely not the worst at the club, and I think again he's all action. He's in the middle of a 3-4-3 kind of formation. He does get the ball from defence. He will make tackles. He will make interceptions. He's definitely not a cheap player on this list, but I think he's got huge upside on him for this year, as does Dani Olmo. Now I was trying to get this guy's unique and super rare all the way through the summer. He started off the season really hot. His price hasn't really been affected from it yet. But I think Leipzig again, like if Bayern, I said this when Werner links first came out, but if Bayern aren't Bayern, Leipzig win the league, you know, and I think Olmo will be a big part of that, you know. Now Bayern are still Bayern now, you know. I watched them at the weekend. They weren't quite as free-flowing and whatever, but they still won very convincingly. So I think Bayern will win the league. But if Bayern are not Bayern for 2 minutes, Leipzig are very well positioned to go and take advantage of them. And I think Dani Olmo and Kunku, Werner, there's some key guys. Dani Olmo will be one of them. And for midfield, I think he's fantastically priced. For the forwards, I've got 1 guy from MLS, 1 from Challenger Euro, and 2 from Champion. This guy from Champion is more expensive than the other 3 put together. Sebastian Druise, for me, ticks all the boxes that Kalina picks. He's just arrived in MLS, he's at a new franchise, he's one of the main men. They're not looking to replace him. He's making no sounds, no noises of wanting to leave or advance his career. He is 26. I think he's probably going to be quite happy being there as the main man. His scores are phenomenal, new matrix, old matrix, whatever. But again, just the ascendancy that Austin are going on, this guy might be a wee bit pricey. You might be able to get him a bit cheaper as the season winds down. But again, when it comes to MLS, you definitely want these guys that just have zero transfer risk, have got a good injury record, and are in a team that will do everything to get them on the pitch and make them a part of the best 11. And he, as far as like designated players and all that kind of stuff is concerned in MLS, I think he is amongst the most rock solid. And like I said at the beginning of this, for me, what I'm looking for is the meta with the least disruption. All action players. Daisen Maeda, of course, I'm a bit biased on this guy, but still super cheap, even though he rocked out in a big way at the weekend. But you want, and again, with forwards, we don't need to worry about goals that are conceded. We're more interested in action. And Druise at home, especially, like Austin have been very formidable at home, is a killer, you know. So they're not reliant on tactics as much necessarily or being against weak opponents. They're just reliant on being themselves, and because they're an all-action player, they can capture all sorts of points for us. These are the ones, like forwards without an AA game now, if they don't get assists and goals, they will suffer in terms of how much they're picked, and other players like this will be picked more often. I think probably the poster child of what I'm trying to get across here would be Andre Kramaric. Now this guy does everything, plays everywhere, he's still really super cheap. Yeah, he's not young, he's 31. But a guy like this with a solid AA game that is capable of getting double goal assists, double figure goals and assists in the right team, I think is exactly the sort of forward we want to be trying to identify. No matter if you're looking at under 23s or whatever, these are the sort of moulds of guys that get deep into the ball, can play passes, can then follow up and get in the box and finish and move on. Maybe they take some set pieces as well, like Kramaric does. But like I say, I can't say it enough, it's all action, guys. We've even got a guy in the list, Diego Aspas. Now at 35, he is not getting any younger, but the way Celta Vigo have been built, and again, it kind of hammers home the point I'm making here, everything's going to go through Diego Aspas. They've got a great attacking formation and tactics, and he is the centrepiece of it. Similar to Druise, he stands to benefit from all the good play in every good match that they have, and I think because of his age, he is going to be discounted, he is going to be forgotten, particularly at limited. And even when we get, like, he's 35, right, and when we look at some of the guys that are in this list in total, Kramaric, Crescito at 35. Yeah, I was going to say maybe we've got an over 32 specialist in the go here. Maybe we've got the bones of it, you know. But this squad here, guys, this is what I think is going to be the meta for 22-23 is all action players, especially ones in the defensive positions that are on low conceding teams rather than necessarily a high clean sheet team. Now bear in mind we've got 4 goalkeepers in here. The average price per card is 92 quid, which I think is pretty decent considering the calibre we've got involved in some of these positions. And the cumulative price, bearing in mind again, we've got 4 goalkeepers, would be 1,300 quid, and goalkeepers are definitely the most expensive of the bunch. Druise is a big part of that as well, as Dani Olmo and Buetes, you know, so those 3-4, there's about 4 or 5 guys here, they take up so much of the actual pricing. And like I say, I'm looking for the meta with the least disruption. The majority of these guys, we don't have anyone under 23, we've got 7 guys aged between 24 and 28, we've got 6 guys aged over 29, 2 guys over 34, and 1 guy that's U23. So not very much going on in terms of youth. We're looking for solid, stable guys that we know we're going to get plug and play action in from on a weekly basis. And the change in the meta, the change in the matrix isn't actually going to probably disrupt these guys too much. And then as other players around us get weaker, get stronger, whatever, our kind of consistency hopefully maybe raises us up a few levels. And these guys, let's say as an average, they're like 6 out of 10ers. In terms of how good they are in the game, maybe they become 7.5 out of 10 or something like that. That's my kind of thinking on this. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below the video. What do you think the first kind of real new meta is going to come out? On top of what I've discussed, the other thing I would throw into that to kind of stimulate your comments is I don't think we're going to see many double defender plays anymore, particularly in limiteds. I don't think we get much of that in limited anyway, to be honest. But I think the double defender play in like rare pro, that kind of thing, is going to go out the window because there's just too much jeopardy on them getting negative actions and goals conceded. We're going to see much more of an onus go towards double mids and double forwards, depending on the profile of the mids and forwards in question. I hope you have enjoyed this one, guys. Leave those comments down below, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.